Welcome to Fun with Annuities, where every single week I welcome a celebrity guest expert that can help you maximize Chapter 2 of your life. Listen, learn, laugh, and love every minute of the most unique financial podcast on the planet. Let's get to it. Welcome to Fun with Annuities. I'm your host, Stan, the Annuity Man, America's annuity agent, licensed in all 50 states, coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada, where my main administrative office is. And so happy to be there. And we have a repeat guest. He was on 6 or 7 months ago, and I'm so glad he's back. Number one, because I'm very envious of his name, and I'll explain that in a second. But he was with us with another company last time. He used to work for Canex, and now he works for the Index Standard. And the reason we're having him on is because what he's doing now is so in line with my beliefs and what needs to happen in the annuity industry. Without further ado, let me introduce Branislav Nikolic. How are you, Branislav?
Very well, thanks, Stan. Nice to be here, and always pleasure to chat.
Well, and the name, see, he's Branislav, and in the perfect world that I want to live in, where the unicorns chase the butterflies, I would be Stanislav and the annuity czar, Stanislav. But it doesn't work like that, Branislav. But let me give you some background. A good friend of mine, Gary Baker, works for Canex, and Canex supplies all of the SPIA, DIA, QLAC type quotes to us, and Branislav was doing some really interesting work for them. And found even more interesting project, in my opinion, when he went to work for the Index Standard. And they're based in New York City, but Branislav still likes to call Toronto home. But he is really focused on this new project. Branislav, give us kind of the elevator speech of what you're doing now, and then let's dig in, because this is going to be fun.
Thanks, Stan. So it's been over 6 months now, and in a I don't know, 100 words or less, what we do is we try to bring together and demystify custom indices used in the insurance space. We rank them, we create forecasts for them. We use that as a basis for what we call model allocations for fixed index annuities. And overall, we provide guides that are written in human language that people can understand about things that are not so familiar to most.
Well, and that's the reason that when we spoke recently, you were telling me what you were doing, I was so intrigued, because what's going on in the industry right now, just if people don't know, the index and index annuity space and universal life insurance space, they're using back-tested numbers that are really bloated and oversold and overhyped, and there's some issues, and there's some lawsuits coming down the pike. And I think the annuity industry could really clean it up by just either looking at what Branislav and his new company is doing, the one he's with now. And we're working with Branislav. I told him before we got on the air, I said, next time in New York, we'll have to have dinner, because I really am interested in what you're doing differently with the index annuity space, because I think what's happening in the index annuity world is tragic, and in some cases fraudulent, and in a lot of cases misleading to people that hope and dream that these things are going to come true. What is your opinion about the current, and we're not going to mention company names or anything like that, but what's your opinion about the current situation with indexed annuities and index universal life using back-tested numbers, especially with indices that just were created 2 months ago?
It's problematic, and I mean, I can give you an anecdotal example, and you tell me if this makes sense to you. So let's say that this is not a custom index. Let's say we were talking about NASDAQ, and we see the NASDAQ illustrates in the last 10 years at 16% a year. Now you take Apple, which is the largest constituent of NASDAQ. You grow that at 16% over 10 years, and you go from 2.5 trillion to over 12 trillion. Now, as a comparison, that's like 3-4 times the GDP of Germany. So is that a good practice? I'm not so sure. I'll leave it at that. So that's one thing. The other thing is that I think it's interest dynamics here, right? So the only things that index providers or banks or asset managers have to show the performance of an index is a back test. To me, that, like illustration, shows you how things move. how you add things together, how do you multiply them, how do you mix the potion, but it doesn't tell you what a potion will do today, what it will do 10 years from today.
Yeah.
The view that we take at Index Standard is trying to demystify this at a few levels. One is, first of all, describe in a human language. You don't really have to read a font to understand what's going on in an index. There is a paragraph that would always tell you what index is made of and how it works. The other one is that we put it through an extremely rigorous algorithmic process that will give it a rating. So you will get rating anywhere from platinum, gold, silver, bronze, all the way to what we call watch, which is are not the greatest category that we currently have. On top of that, what we think it's important is to see how these indices will work in the environment that it's projected for the economy going forward. So this is what we call a wisdom of Wall Street. So we decompose every index into its building blocks and apply the capital market assumptions for the economy as a whole, what Wall Street, and again, we aggregate from over 30 asset managers, banks, insurance companies, forecasting houses on a capital market assumptions, and we apply that to decomposed indices to come up with a forecast of an index. So that, in our view, is kind of the opposing or counterbalance to what happened over the last 10 years or what happened in the illustration. Now, the backtest itself, the fact that you're using a hindsight there and you let mathematicians and technology, and they'll create you an index that have perfect 45-degree line in the backtest. The question is what happens after a live date. And we more often not see either them going flat, going down, but rarely ever they continue to skyrocket as well as they did. And I think the word of the day could be caution.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think my interest here is, obviously I'm direct to consumer and the largest person doing that. I'm hoping that we can come up with something that our clients can look at. Because right now, what you have, if I'm not mistaken, is kind of business to business, and you're providing it to business to business. This information that you're now cultivating and providing needs to be, as we discussed earlier, in a consumer format where consumers can look at it. I'm hoping that's where you're headed with some of this, because if you do, then we're the platform for that. Because I have nothing against index annuities. I was around in 1995 when they first were introduced, and they were put on the planet to compete with CDs, and they've become this really ridiculous thing that it seems like every single person that sells annuities, they lead with index annuities, which is a joke. They're not a one size fits all. And the index options, and I think right now there's over 750 that I know of, index option choices that are currently available.
That's how you count, though. Like you have
yeah.
over 100 indices, and you have, call it 3 dozen carriers, and then you have 3-4 strategies in every index. We end up, when choosing for different premiums and whatnot, I kid you not, we cover over 4,000 of these combinations every month when we calculate what we call the net forecast credit for a crediting strategy.
4,000.
Yes. So it's and again, this is not the entire thing, because we only do the annuities that are currently available at my former employer, which again, we have a very tight relationship. We rely on them for some calculations, for the data.
So that's not all of them.
That's not all of them. And yet, if you think about the entire market, has huge number of choices. Now, a lot of these choices are repetitive. Yeah. And this is one thing that we try to do with our model allocations, that even within a single annuity, when you have buffering 15, 20, 30 choices, we want to bring it down to 3, 4, 5. They're distinct. They're on a forward-looking basis better than a fixed rate that annuity offers, and that you can compare those forecasted credits, albeit, to the fixed rates in the, let's say, MIGA, and then that you're not repeating or over-concentrating in a single index, choosing a cap on S&P, participation on S&P, monthly sum on S&P. I mean, that's all on S&P. So that's kind of the key element that we are trying to provide. And going back to your question about helping consumers, our goal is helping the end consumer. Our goal is to help educate the end consumer, to help educate advisors, from whom I think the expectations are too high to understand everything and anything under this sun and moon. These indices are complex. There's too many of them. We'll give them the Cliff's notes for each and every index, for each and every indexed annuity, so that they can comfortably speak to an end consumer. And if you look at our materials, they're really written at a level for the consumer to understand.
Yeah, I unfortunately, the problems that are arising in the index annuity space and index universal life, which I don't sell, but it's similar, are with agents and advisors that will not take the time to do that type of research. I think that to really combat the problem, eventually, you're going to have to come up with a consumer facing that will explain it to the consumer if they want to do it. I mean, simple is complex, as Steve Jobs always said. That's an easy thing for me to say. It's a very hard thing for you to do. But I think eventually, as annuities as a category keep heading toward the direct-to-consumer market, and we're dragging all these carriers across the finish line to get there, there's going to have to eventually be something that the consumer goes to, and similar information that you're providing to B2B and it's B2C, where they can look, because annuities are contracts and people can make their own decisions based on good information. I'm excited about what you guys are doing, but I am excited about 2.0. And 2.0, it has to involve the consumer, because I really don't have a ton of faith in the agents and advisors as a whole and as a collective and as a majority using your information to base their recommendations on indexed annuities. That's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. Again, I wouldn't paint it with such a broad brush. I would say that if you distill information such that is easily accessible, and again, we do this directly with the firms. We do this with platforms. I think you're right. Enabling consumers even just to ask the right questions, it's 90%.
Well, let's go through that. I mean, in your opinion, and then just off the cuff, someone's being pitched an indexed annuity for market type returns, which that's the first no. But they're being pitched, and they're being pitched back-tested numbers. What's your verbal response to that if you're a consumer?
So my first question is, how are you able to offer me market rate returns and still protecting my principal? Who pays for the insurance? Who is a fairy godmother that underwrites that? So that'd be the first one. The other one is, if you look at back-tested performance, I would just dismiss that off the cuff and basically say that the back-tested performance is there to kind of serve mathematical need of adding, multiplying. I think, to be honest, I think we're in an extremely dangerous spot today with kind of coming off the bull market, and interest rates, they've risen, expanded the budgets for options, participations that increased, caps that increased, and now you have two environments that have collided, and now you're adding these two together and basically saying, if I have a cap or a participation as of today, and I apply that to the market in which rates were zero and it was raging bull market, you add it together, you are getting teens, low 20s on an annual return,
which is stupid.
It's ridiculous. And I think that would be my first question. If your fixed annuity returns look anything like equity returns, there is some fudging going on.
Liz, I need people to hear this, okay? Because I've been pounding the table on this and taking the bullets from all these salespeople and organizations. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. If it sounds like you're buying a market product with principal protection, you're the sucker at the table. It's not going to happen, period.
But you know what the problem is? And I think that's a problem with any type of these arguments, is that there is half of the people who will win and half the people that will lose. And those who win will boast about it, and those who lose will cry about it, right?
Right,
So
right.
I think it's also fair to understand what are you looking to get? What are you getting yourself into? Um, if you look at someone who bought Bitcoin in 2019 and ask them how they feel today, they'll give you a completely different answer than someone who bought a
Sure.
Bitcoin in 2006, right? Now the question is, what are we measuring? I think we have to measure the per unit of risk return that you're getting. How much you're relying on the principal protection versus how much you're looking for an upside. That goes back to, is a fixed annuity one size fits all? I think it achieve a lot of purposes. You have optional income benefit riders, which I think
Sure.
are phenomenal. I think that even these are priced in a way that those who keep them will benefit from those who don't. Those who use
Right.
them will benefit from those who don't.
Right.
So you have like half dozen and six the other, one half ain't going to be happy. I think the same thing is here, that you have some for whom these things work, and again, how you use it. When you look into volatility control index, I think what it allows you to do is take the volatility as a variable out of your retirement. The participations are more stable. If you look over the last 2 years where the rates are going up, you would see that on a benchmark, let's say like S&P, the participation rate doubled. Now, you tell me what's going to happen when rates go down. What's going to happen to the participation?
Right.
If you don't have to answer, we'll let people kind of ponder on that one. If you look at a volatility control index, you would see the participation on it went up 20, 30%. Again, what's going to happen if the rates are coming down? This is strictly a function of rates, not the volatility. That's an important thing. To put it in baseball terms, would you rather have 10 people in a lineup who hit singles and doubles? Or would you like to have 3 heavy hitters and hope the bases are loaded when they come to hit the home run, if they hit it? I think it's a choice.
That's well put. We're talking to Branislav Nikolic of the Index Standard, formerly of Canex. He's a good friend and he's very smart. Branislav, give the people a little bit of your background. Don't overwhelm them with your math accolades, but tell them who you are and your accomplishments.
No math. So I've been in industry for past decade, and I had an opportunity, very fortunate opportunity to work initially with Moshe Milevsky at his startup. That was later acquired by Canex, where I had a privilege to work with Lowell and Gary. Again, big names in the industry.
Sure.
And along the way, I got to work with Tommy Kotolan, who was also at Canex, and made friends with Dave Blanchett, Mike Finke along the way, Wade Pfau. So I was extremely privileged to have all these heavy hitters of the industry influence my young career. On the math side, I did all my education here in Toronto. And Stan, the news flash, I defended my PhD dissertation. Haven't wore the funny hat yet, so I cannot write your doctor's
How
note.
did it go?
It went great. So doctor in awaiting. So they're tailoring the silly hat, and hopefully soon I'll be able to write your doctor's note if you need one.
And the dissertation was on what?
So I did research, kind of as like a three-legged project. One was on optimal allocation to deferred income annuities.
Okay.
You can apply this if you want to sell pensionize. You can apply this in a 401k setting. The other piece was strictly about regulatory requirements when you're reserving for cash refund annuities, given that these gained in popularity last little while. And then finally, the project that I was really passionate about had to do with what I'm currently doing, is applying some machine learning techniques to understand the indices and basically see how we can break them into building blocks and apply some common economy, common factors to it to get the performance on a go-forward basis, to forecast and understand how annuities not will, but would do going forward.
Very nice. I just came up with the Index Standards logo. I mean, tagline. You can steal it, but I'll obviously need, some type of royalties. The index standard, looking forward, not backwards. I mean, that's in essence what you guys do, right? Which is the antithesis of what everyone else is doing. Everything else is back tested. Interesting. I just did another video on this, but the perfect storm of news is going in your favor with the lawsuits now pending on back-tested numbers, and that class action lawsuit growing and growing and growing. Not only consumers suing because of these promises, but ironically, agents suing the carriers for providing the back-tested numbers that they pushed, which is one of the weirder things I've ever heard in my life. So I think this is going to be, it's a softball of all softballs. It's a beach ball of all beach balls thrown to your company to say, we're not doing back testing, we're doing forward testing. We're doing legitimate forward testing, which, has it ever been done? Or you guys blue water in this space? I would think you're blue water. You're new.
I mean, in this space, it's completely new, but forecasting has been done.
Of course. But annuity, I mean, the annuity
decades,
stodgy,
right?
the old stodgy, fat guy, in Des Moines, Iowa, smoking a cigar. Nothing against Des Moines. I love Des Moines. But the point is, it's never happened here. My question to you is why? Is it just because it didn't need to, or is it because the back-tested issues are starting to come to a head?
This goes back again. I can give you kind of a secondhand story here, but the founder of the index standard, Lawrence Black, he spent a good part of last 2 decades creating indices and creating good indices, having partnership with people who are proven in academia, and
Sure.
he grew massive index business in his past life, right? So for him, as a next chapter, he thought of, he can create more indices. I mean, he has been successful at that, but then he realized that the questions that people asked about his indices are questions that just multiply when you see the number of players that entered the arena in the last 5 to 10 years. Banks, asset managers, even indexers, getting proprietary indices. So instead of doing more of what he was great at, but doing it one-off for a single purpose, he's like, let's help everyone. Let's help people retire with more money in their pockets. I think the key here is that the end consumer was and is in our eyes and minds when we do something. And that's something that I believe sets us apart. The fact that we have collectively, so between Lawrence and Jay Watson, another partner, and myself, we have enough experience. They have it in indices, I have it enough in annuities to bring together a solution that will help mom and pop in their retirement, help them retire with more money in their pockets. Whether these indices are used to grow money, whether these indices are used, and more often than not, you're seeing they're being used in living benefits as well to drive income. How do we help people understand what they're buying, make the choice whether they want to participate in that game at all, and help them with a forward-looking view?
And I think it's important to show people with forward-looking is, here's forward-looking and then here's contractual. Here are the two. Which one do you want to do? Which one fits you? If you're done, as chapter 2 of your life means you don't want to track anything anymore or make those type of decisions, you just want to lock and load and just have the guarantee, then have the guarantee, or have a combination of the two. The other thing that's happening in the industry, which is really sad, is there are the handful of products that have the index that is linked to the income benefit, but they're being sold improperly, and people aren't being told that the contractual guaranteed equivalent is so much higher, and the annuity companies just simply, in most cases, lower that initial payment to make up for that potential increase of that index. I just think that the industries as a whole, and I'm including your company as well. And when I get in front of you and Lawrence and everybody, I mean, I'll be brutal. I'll say, listen, man, you've got to take this and take it down a few notches. You have to. In order for it to be, now, with that being said, I mean, the companies that are using you and the firms that are using you, kudos to them for doing that. But for the consumer to really not get taken to the woodshed like they are in a lot of cases, they have to be educated on a very simplistic level, like mine, that they understand if they're going to look at these indexed annuities or index products that are packaged, they have to fully understand it and be able to explain it to a 9-year-old. And that's going to be the hard part for you guys. Now, you're going to make a good living and it's going to be great and you guys are going to grow and all these firms are going to hire you. But that's still not reaching the consumer like you need to reach the consumer. What is Lawrence and I forgot the other partner's name. What'd you say his name was?
Jay Watson.
What's between you, Jay, and Lawrence? Do you have those conversations about the consumer, or is the conversation just that the hopeful information you're providing to the advisor gets to the consumer?
So of course, it's kind of like front and center of all the conversation. How does this get to the end consumer? And that's why we partner with distribution firms. That's why we partner with platforms. That's why we're looking to partner with folks like you, with you in particular, who get this straight to consumer, to enable a consumer to make a choice. And everything that goes into creating any of our solution, you're saying, explaining it to a 9th grader, we have an editor on staff who actually takes everything that we say at a high level. They come from banking, I'm from insurance, and we're talking all this mumbo jumbo and a mumbo jumbo from the index documentation, from the annuity documentation. He takes it down the notch and basically says, hey guys, we need to talk simple language. Right. We have to, every time you have someone in mind, again, this has been ingrained in my mind for a long time now. Would my grandma understand what I'm saying? If I don't think she would, you're right, bring it down a notch. This information, our hope is that our reports on annuities and on indices eventually end in every client file, similar now how illustrations are printed, how the needs assessment, best interest, suitability, that's there because we see that as perfect starting point to manage expectations. In other words, you have the illustration that tells you how things work. What we are trying to provide is how this might look for you 5-10 years down the road. So we hope that it ends up.
I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, but I'm going to encourage you to think through that, because in 5 to 7 years, in my opinion, and maybe the industry is going to fight me on this, but if they do, it's going to be one hell of a fight, of which I'm going to win. I think consumers will be able to buy direct. I really believe that. And if I leave a legacy out here, that's going to be it. It's going to be, I'm going to make sure that the simplistic annuities, and this can be simplistic if it's done correctly, the index space, can be purchased well and be informed, just like people can buy stocks and can buy mutual funds and can buy anything direct. There is absolutely no reason whatsoever that the rule of an agent having to be in the middle of that sale has to be in place. That is archaic. That will eventually change, and that I'm hoping to drag those people across the finish line. But with your company doing what they're doing, within the next 5 years, hopefully that will be a part of how we do it, because everything's information. And the problem right now is the annuity industry seems to be the keepers of the information, and they're not. And now you're saying, no, we're taking that information and we're going to distribute it the way we think it should be distributed. With that being said, are you getting any pushback from carriers on this at all? Are they participating?
Absolutely not. No, everyone, knock on wood, everyone who sees it likes it. We don't have any pushback from carriers. We don't see any pushback from distribution firms. I think you're right. I think everyone is realizing that we're living in the age of information. Now, I have to push back on what you just said.
Please
And
do.
again, I've no horse in this race. So I think that what you are proposing, that everyone going online, clicking and buying, I think that's the future. But there is going to be a point similar to how does it work when you buy a car? I don't think that every car dealership adds value, but a lot of them do. I don't think that customization of the car is something that everyone not can or cannot do, cares to do. Where I think the dealership can help. Again, they
I
kind of
understand. Let me give you my
it
correlation.
goes in their direction. Just give me a second. And then you have Elon Musk and Tesla. I said, oh, I'm not going to advertise. I'm just going to, you can buy it online with your credit card. That's, yes, if you have a unique proposition and a proposition that's one size fits all, if someone can identify that that's their piece of clothing. I don't think that it will ever go one way or the other, but I think that information at a fingertips, again, the advisors are saying, we love this information because we are unable to know everything. My heart, like I've heard once someone say, my heart stops when I have to talk about its indices, but in order for me to close the sale, I have to. Now you're enabling me not to make stuff up. You're giving me the information that I can rely on. So I'm with you. The information is going to be a key, but whether every consumer is interested to hear it all, I would debate.
I understand. Let me give you my correlation, and this is one that rural America and flyover America will understand. Long time ago, every single small town, or most of them, had a travel agency in that small town where you got and got your travel. At this point in time, those have been eliminated from direct online marketplaces, and you have boutiques. You have some that still stand that cater to a specific small market. The same thing will occur in the annuity industry. There still will be boutique people that do that. But I think at the end of the day, the local agent that sells within a 30-mile radius of where they live, no offense to you guys out there if you're listening, or gals, but it's over. And it's the same thing as, you know, the Walmarts and Amazons of the world. When people said to me, you know, Amazon's not going to be able to sell things like that because you're going to want to try things on, or you're going to want to touch it. Yeah, okay, right, sure. That's been disproven. I think this is the last archaic industry to be drug across the finish line. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see how it's packaged. Now, the other interesting part is I'm probably one of a handful of people that are either interested in doing this on my website and putting it, and B, more importantly, can afford to do it and stroke that check to get the information out to the consumer for free. No one else is going to do that. No one else is crazy enough to do that. With that being said, do you find, you said to me earlier that there are some carriers that don't participate. Is that a function of them not being interested, or is that a function of cost?
I don't think it's necessarily either. I think the key is that we are still relatively new, and we are working with some.
Have you contacted them all? I mean, with all the people in this space, have you contacted them all, or are you just working with the major ones? And I'm going to give you my answer once I hear your answer.
Yes.
You've contacted every single carrier that's
not every, no. That's where I'm kind of shaking my head. No, I'm slowly going through that process. And but obviously we have started with ones where we saw that we could have the traction first, because
you start with the major ones and now you're trickling down, but there can't be that many. I mean, it has to be
roughly 3 dozen.
Okay. So you've gotten to how many out of the 3? Out of the 3 dozen, how many are you working with now?
It depends on what level. We work with few very closely, to the point that we are helping them drive their message, changing their processes based on what we have. And we have few more, I would say, that they are kind of arm's length, that are using our service for competitive intelligence, for understanding what we do and how they look compared to the rest of the market. And that's basically our hope, that that's our entry point, that we provide a different dimension of competitive intelligence to begin with, and then work with few to help them drive the change.
Yeah, but it can't be like that, in my opinion. If you've got 36 carriers, let's just say you have 36 carriers. My question to you, Jay and Lawrence, is why haven't all 36 been contacted? Why don't we have specific answers from all 36? Why haven't all 36 been flown to New York and sit in a room? Why haven't all 36 been said, this is what we're trying to achieve as an industry? Because once you start pitting, and I'm not putting down the business model, I'm just a brutally factual dude that understands this industry backwards and forwards like nobody else from a consumer standpoint. My question to you is, why not the full 36? And let me tell you why. Because in rural America, flyover America, small town America, that local agent a lot of times is selling that low end carrier that's offering 1 or 2 index annuities that pay a huge commission. And that's the one, those are the people I'm worried about, not the big carriers that you're helping enhance and all that. I don't give a damn. What I care about is the smaller, the lady or her husband that just retired from the local mill, and somebody's showing them one index annuity company of which the index standard doesn't have a relationship with. That's who I'm worried about.
Okay, so I think I understand what you're saying. So whether we have a relationship with them currently or not doesn't tell you whether we cover their product. So we cover everything. Now, whether we have a relationship with them to help them further than just having their indices rated, their annuities put through our model allocation process, those are two different things.
But it also costs that carrier to work with your company to take it to the next level to provide that additional information, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. And that's, obviously the hurdle of everything like this, which is okay. I mean, it is what it is. But you do cover that carrier. You do have as much information as they have provided to you on that index, right? Or indice. And you do the best you can with what they have, or do they even have to give you that information for you to really do a deep dive?
No one has to give us anything on an index side. The moment an index comes live, gets pitched in space, that's fantastic. We cover it. Okay. And basically our subscribers, whether they're distribution or the carriers, get to see all of these indices at once. For the annuities, it's a little bit more complicated because it's not only the index, it's the annuity data as well. And you can guess that there is a lag where we need to get that from the carrier. But again, that's the information that carriers are willingly supplying, or it's available in the space.
Because in the future, and the great part about this podcast is obviously it's not softball and a love fest. It is us talking about what's happening and what's good. And I'm so happy that Branislav is with this new company, the Index Standard, and kudos to Jay and Lawrence. I hope to meet them soon with what you're doing. But I hope in the future, and I envision, and maybe it's there now, is let's just say mom and pop, let's say Doris and Bob Johnson, and they're in middle of nowhere, Kansas, okay, or North Carolina, and they've been pitched XYZ index annuity, only one. There has to be a place in the future where they know that they can go, hopefully it's my site, that they can type in the carrier and that product name and not only get the truth about that product, but get comparison products as well. Is that what am I dreaming, Branislav?
I don't think you are. I think that there are multiple ways to do that.
Okay.
I think that the first bit is, and again, this is something that doesn't get talked much in the industry about, is how do you benchmark these products? What are the comparisons?
Right.
What are the things that you ought to compare to these apples to apples? Now, I'll use this one. Again, are you comparing apples to apples based on the rates? Are you comparing apples to apples based on the illustration? Are you running this through some kind of process? Are you backtesting? Are you forecasting? I think that the key is that you have to bring them all to a level playing field.
I
I
agree.
think that understanding what the index is, and I think of index as a fuel. What fuel goes into the engine, that's an indexed annuity. Now, whether fuel is good makes no difference to you. Whether engine is good makes no difference to you. Whether this fuel and this engine work together well is what you as a mom and pop care about. And this is what we are trying to get at, that we provide this like an onion, that you can understand the annuity construct, you can understand the index, but when it comes to it, what we call the net forecast credit, it's something that people are used to seeing. One number that will tell you, and you're able to compare among crediting strategies within annuities, and by that token, across annuities as well.
Interesting and fascinating. And you can, me being very familiar with the Canex platform, obviously, as you were talking about how that's going to be laid out, you can certainly understand the Canex connection there, because in essence, what you're trying to do is provide that same type of clearinghouse objective view of what's out there so that people can make their choices, as if it can't be as simplistic as when you run an immediate annuity quote on my site and you see from top to bottom what the number is, because that's real simple. And that's the reason I like that. But I think you can get it pretty close. And it would be interesting conversation. I look forward to it. Now I got to come to New York now, and talk about how to do that, because I'm telling you what you're doing here, and I'm not sure you Jay and Lawrence understands it, the consumer side as much as you do. Maybe they do, but this is an industry changer. That's the reason I was excited to have you on. This right here is what's needed to clean up the space of indexed annuities. Now, that's just one product type out there. There's many product types, but this could clean it up once and for all. It really could, so that people would be making decisions not on fictitious back-tested numbers, but on projections, just like they do with everything else. As I always tell people, if you think about mutual funds, and I've, having been at Dean Weber, Payne Weber, Morgan Stanley, UBS, worked in New York City, we did the whole thing, understand it. If you look historically at the best mutual funds last year, they're probably not going to be the best mutual funds this year. It just happens that way. Yet the annuity industry is hanging their hat 100% on back-tested return scenarios to convince the baby boomers that are retiring that this is a good idea. This will explode legally, and it is right now, unless it's cleaned up. And I'm hoping that the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, are flying into New York and Toronto every day to take you guys out to dinner, because this is the potential solution for issues coming down the pike, in my opinion. Kudos to you guys.
We sure hope that you're right. We sure hope that, again, from NAIC's point of view, if you think about the current illustration regulation, when it was put in place, I think it was well-intended, and it was properly designed. And in the last 10 years, in 2012, you had 2008 that would kind of crash everything in front of you. That was fine. No one, again, kept it up to date. Now that your last 10 years is probably the best things that these people have seen and probably will see in their lifetimes. And I don't think taking that as a base case is a safe assumption. I go back to word of the day, caution. I would caution against using last 10 years as an indication of a performance of any kind.
Correct.
Inside of annuity, outside of annuity, last 10, 15 years have been really, really good. And we've also seen the other thing changing, that we went from like very low interest rates to now, again, historically, these are not high interest rate numbers, but it's high compared to where it was 3 years ago.
Correct. And check, for people listening to this, check the date. We're talking about current, and this is evergreen content. So that's going to be, go ahead, continue.
So those two things combined, that's what I'm most worried about. What you're telling about, or what you're saying is that we have a structural problem. And we can agree or disagree the level of structural problem, but I think that we can do better for moms and pops. And again, I think, like, going back to my grandma, we can do better for people like my grandma. That aside, but what I think we are also have to be cognizant of is that we are in a unique point in time, that we went off a bull run through a crazy pandemic that did raise issues in the market.
Sure.
The interest rates going from 0 to some meaningful level now. Combining the two, I think that this time in our history will be remembered.
The remembered is a right word. There's something in the industry, index annuity industry, called renewal rates. And renewal rates, to the person out there, means that, let's just say you buy a 10-year surrender charge product and the index option is a 1-year option. So every year, the annuity company can set the participation caps, spreads, all of that every single year at their discretion based on numerous things. Does your company, the Index Standard, look at renewal rate history? Because that's a big one in our world that no one really talks about.
I think a lot of people talk about it. I think the problem is that
nobody does anything about it.
No, I will disagree. I tried really hard. The problem getting the data.
Okay.
And again, getting the data and having it somehow anonymized so that you can report it back.
That's hard, man.
Is a problem. I've tried that. I think that's super important. Renewal rates are important, and people understanding what the rate of today means in a year or 2 years time. Now, you have products that would guarantee you the rate for a duration. And I've recently had extremely interesting conversations. Someone asked me, do you think it would be appealing if we were to offer a rate, participation rate, or a cap rate that's a notch lower than the high street rate, but guaranteed for 10 years?
Yes.
And
yes. See, and that's it right there.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes, that's what we should do, because rational people will buy that. Because when you were talking about renewal rates, I mean, the problem with renewal rates is the one word that messes the whole thing up from an analyst standpoint, is the word discretion. In other words, the annuity companies reserve the right at their discretion to change it. The companies that are thinking like that, in other words, if the cap is 8 at XYZ company and ABC company comes in and goes, okay, we're going to put it at 6. We're going to put it at 6 for 10 years. You know, that, I'm giving an example. That's going to be more, I'm telling you right now, from the consumer standpoint, they're going to eat that up if someone does that, because the hopes and dreams go away. And the bad sales pitch goes away, and the rational thinking caps start coming on, and people start going, okay, I understand that. The other stuff, we gotta clean it up and make it simple, truly.
But it's also it comes down to again, this is kind of the expertise that we want to bring to the table. Again, there's enough people hating on this type of index or that type of index, or like, oh, I don't like it with asset manager, I don't like it with a bank. I'm S&P 500 only. I think what needs to be understood is that the S&P 500, for example, was never meant to sit in an annuity. It was meant to track the largest 500 companies
with dividends included.
That again, that's one kind. That's the total return. Then you have a price return that takes the dividend out.
Right.
Point being that now you have the second generation of indices that are created to eliminate, to the furthest extent possible, some of that variability. So if I talked about a little bit on a participation rate that we've observed over the last 2 years. What are the two things that impact the renewal rates? Is the option budget, basically interest rates, and its volatility. If you have something that's highly volatile and you don't have interest rates high enough to buy these options, your participation tanks, your cap tanks.
And
We've
you
seen
just lost 95% of the public right there. That conversation, you just lost them. Done. And I know you don't believe that.
No, I do. But then the key is that someone introduces a concept where it eliminates one of these two out of the picture and says, I'll let you choose the volatility level. I'll let you choose the level that you're comfortable with. Is that 5%, 7.5%, 10%? And for that, what drives your participation is really where the rates are going to be. That's I've simplified half the story already. Now, Stan, you got to do something.
Let me tell you something. And I've told, obviously index annuity companies would love for me to push their product, and I don't. But I'm going to tell you something. There's going to come a day, there's going to be a product like that I truly believe in on the index side. And when I tell people to buy it because it's good, it's going to be game over. It's going to be game over, and they better be able to take the inflow.
Is that a retirement plan, Stan?
No. I don't need, no.
Is it 3.0 of
No, I don't need, I'm already there. I don't need any more. I'm giving money away now, and I'm fortunate. I'm just now here to make the industry better and to piss everybody off that I need to piss off. But the point is that if those types of products start coming on board that are pro-consumer, that can be easily explained on the index side, all I have to say to the carriers, if I start saying, let's buy that, they better be able to do the paperwork, because we'll suffocate them. Because people are waiting for me to say, this index annuity is the right one. This index annuity can be explained to a 9-year-old. This index annuity will not pull the rug out from under you. This index annuity is easy to understand, and this index annuity is fair, and the renewal rates are legit. I can't say that now. I want to say that. I'm going to eventually say that, which is, and I'm going to give your company, the Index Standard, and you and Jay and Lawrence the credit for being a fresh voice out here, because up until, see, the interesting part about where we are right now is now there's lawsuits on this back-tested stuff, but now we have someone that can fill the void and get rid of that as a legitimate source of information that people can rely on. And that's, kudos to you guys for, running toward the bullets, pioneers take all the arrows, however you want to say it. But I'm excited to watch you guys grow. I'm excited to have those conversations with you on how I think it can be positioned. I'm willing to pay whatever it takes to get it on my site if I believe it's pro-consumer and easy to understand. And I'm looking forward to that day when you say, Stan, here's the obscure, outrageous price you're going to have to pay for this, giving away this information for free. And I'm going to say, who do I make the check out to? Because I want to do that. I want to disrupt and change this index annuity space for the better. I like the product. I just don't like how it's being sold right now, period.
No, I think we agree on, I mean, do you want to do a mic drop or?
Yeah, man, we got to do that. See,
is that it?
No, man, that was my mic drop, but you get one in just a second. And by the way, I'll have a full write-up on Branislav on our site. Obviously, he is a friend, and he's a visionary, and he's someone that's very important in the industry. And kudos to him and his partners for doing this and coming on this show, because it's not a soft landing spot. I push people, but I like what I'm hearing. The Index Standard, his name is Branislav Nikolic. I'm assuming that you have from where are you originally from?
From Serbia. From
Serbia, where very good basketball is played, by the way. We're finding that out. So
this is just a new era of it. It was always good.
No, it's always been good. That's exactly right. It's always been good. So I digress, because I put myself through college playing basketball. So mic drop moment for Branislav. I'm going to count you down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then wow us with your expertise and in a very succinct way, and then I'll close us out and we'll go from there. So mic drop moment: Branislav Nikolic of the Index Standard, an absolute star in the industry, and I'm hoping he doesn't move to another one. I hope he stays right here. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Thank you, Stan. I mean, this was, again, pleasure as usual. My mic drop moment this time is going to be, again, I'll repeat myself. It's caution. I think we are in a defining times for our industry. I think it's a pivotal moment. I think that there is a will to change the industry. I am not going to say that all is bad and all is doom and gloom.
No.
I think we stand to improve. We are playing our role to improve the industry, and most importantly, looking into the eyes of the end consumers, moms and pops, grandmas and grandpas, and helping them do better, achieve better, have more money in their pockets for their retirement. And if we do that, that's what we will consider success.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Branislav Nikolic, Branislav and Stanislav on the Fun with Annuities program today. We're going to have you back on. I am flying to New York here pretty soon. I am going to come see you, and hopefully we can start working to getting this type of information on my site, which I'm sure my board of directors are listening to this and they're going to be saying, go to New York. That is going to happen sooner than later. But I want to thank everybody on all the major podcast platforms listening to us, and obviously on the Fun with Annuities YouTube channel. I will see you next time.